Happy summer, Lehigh Carbon Community College, and welcome to Batch 5 of Sessions for Summer Success. My name is Michael. I'm a learning specialist here at the college, and in this series, we help you with tips and suggestions and resources to help you be successful here this summer while you're taking classes at Lehigh Carbon Community College. Thank you to the FYE First Year Experience for helping promote this video series. Okay, a quick agenda for today. I've got a reminder for y'all. We're going to spend some time reviewing tips, depths of learning tip, some stress management tips, and test-taking anxiety tips along those lines. So as a reminder, I'm a learning specialist. I help students with organization, goal setting, project management, time management, test-taking strategies, study skills, how to take notes during a lecture, a whole bunch of things. I am located in Educational Support Services. There's our contact information. But also in my area is tutoring services. We offer face-to-face, remote, and online tutoring services for students. They have a lot of strategies to help you be successful in specific courses. All right, so let's get started here. So let's talk about reviewing tips, right? So remember, there's a difference between learning something, studying something, and reviewing something. We're going to be really focusing on reviewing for a test, right? So one of the things you want to do when you review for a test, you want to gather all your materials. And I mean your books, your resources, everything that you have, even your notes, and past assignments, past tests, anything with faculty feedback, right? You want to gather all this stuff together, and you want to process this information. You want to look at this information very intentionally with two distinct goals in mind. You want to help determine what you don't know. What do you have trouble recalling? Why have you trouble learning? What's sticking for you? Right? And try to analyze your tendencies and problem spots. Maybe you have a hard time comparing and contrasting things. Maybe this subset of stuff is just really tricky for you because it's very scientific-y, or you're really having problems with this aspect of it. Right? So you want to kind of figure out what you don't know and where are your trouble spots. Right? Then you want to develop, plan, and implement various kinds of self-testing approaches to help you be successful here, right? So traditional ones are flashcards or Quizlets. Are really useful tools to help you. But you also can use classmates and tutors to help you review information, so you can kind of quiz yourself and kind of place yourself too. But also I want to emphasize if you have a timed test, you want to make sure your practices are timed, right? Because you want to simulate that environment as much as possible. Okay, now a big key during this reviewing process, when you start kind of digging into reviewing the material, is you want to answer without looking at your notes, right? And that's the difference between recognition versus recall. Recognition is like, yeah, that looks familiar. Recall is be able to say, that looks familiar, and here's all the stuff I know about it. Right? Here's all the different things about it. And you want to very intentionally do that, because when you take the test, you're not going to have your notes with you, and you want to be able to recall the information that you need to move it from your long-term memory to your short-term working memory so you can put it on the test. All right, so let's talk about deeper learning. We talked about Bloom's a little bit before as far as the foundational pieces, right, of remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating things, right, how it all kind of builds itself up, or builds itself to the deeper learning. But one of the things very often students ask about is like, what do I need to study? How deep do I need to really know this material? How much do I need to know? Well, one of the areas you can look at learning outcomes, objectives, or goals. Will tell you how high up or how deep your learning needs to go and how much you need to study. Now, these can occur on textbooks chapters. They can show up on PowerPoints. They can show up in the course outline, right? These show up on different levels, right? So things like, say, learning outcomes, learning goals, or learning objectives are really important phrases for you to pay attention to. And so, for example, here's the book I used, right? By the end of this chapter, you should be able to distinguish between these three types of amenia, right? Okay, so the verbs are essential understanding your expected depth of learning and what you need to accomplish, right? So distinguish is up there in the analyze level, which means you need to remember, you need to start at the foundation, and you need to remember these three types, right, of anemia. Right? You need to understand each of those three types. You need to be able to apply these to the real world in different contexts, right? You need to think about examples of those, right? And then you need to be able to analyze those, which means you need to think about how they're similar and how they're different. You have to compare and contrast all these things. Right? What do they have in common, what they don't. But the foundation is remembering, but you have to work your way up. so you successfully be able to meet this learning outcome. Okay? Okay, now let's talk about stress a little bit. Stress is any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain, right? It's our body's response to things, right? We kind of get stressed out all the time in different ways, and there's actually two types of stress, right? Say e-stress, which are situations that where we feel stressful, we feel like we can handle it. We're challenged, but we're feeling we can make it through, right? It's a positive thoughts about ourselves, our lives, and ourselves, right? That stress that motivates us to improve, right? And there's de-stress. That's when it's overwhelming and it's unlikely result in a satisfactory outcome. This is when you're really stressed out and your health is deteriorating and negative thoughts about yourself and your life, right? So e-stress is a positive thing that's going to keep us moving. De-stress is one of those stresses that really kind of impacts us in a negative way. Right? So you want to be aware of where you're feeling with these things and understand stress is part of life and it's a good thing, but also can be a very bad thing and very challenging things for you. Speaking of which, I want to say that, we are not, as a learning specialist, I am not a counselor. We do have very good counselors here at Lehigh-Carbon Community College. So if you're in that de-stress state, if you're really stressed out and you really need to talk to somebody, I would really encourage you to set up some time to talk to our counselors. It's always good to have someone outside of you talk about these things so you can just kind of feel a little bit better. And they can help you in many different ways that learning specialists can when it comes to stress, but definitely reach out to them. But let's talk about some stress management tips. We talked about before self-management or self-maintenance, right? And how that's really kind of important for you, right? And that means like getting a full night's sleep, eating nutritious food, staying hydrated, getting some fresh air and sunlight, right? Using mindfulness and breathing to help calm down your anxiety, focusing on positive self-talk, right? Focus on the actions you need to take to succeed, right? Students very often will worry about failing rather than they'll spend all their time worrying about failing rather than thinking about what do I need to be successful. Right, and with that in mind, one of the things that can really help you feel better about your stress is preparing for a class and a test, right? Nothing's worse than walking into a situation you're not prepared for. So you want to prepare the best you can for that class and for that test, right? So self-maintenance is one of those things that's going to help you manage your stress better. Okay, test-taking anxiety. When you're preparing for a test, expect stress and anxiety in at least 4 areas, right? Before the test, just before it, during it, and after it, right? No, before it. Well, before it is like the day before, or like the morning of, and that's where it's that self-maintenance and self-care is really kind of important, right? And then there's just before it, like the minutes before it starts, where like, the professor's like perhaps passing them out, getting everything ready to go, and you're like, you're feeling that anxiety, right? Well, try 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. It's a solid approach to help you reduce your anxiety. Right. Now, during the test, you can't really take too much time, but you're going to have to expect it. Sometimes it's going to show up at a new question. You're going to be stressed out during the test because you're going to see a question. You might be doing well and like, I don't recognize this. And all that stress and anxiety is going to coming back, right? So what you want to do is what I would call mini self moments, right? Just take a moment and kind of just recenter yourself. And strategy I tell students to use is just close your eyes and take an intentional breath. Again, close your eyes and take that intentional breath. That's going to help you regroup a little bit, okay? Now, after it, you're also going to feel stress and anxiety too, and it's going to be different than your other stress because at this point, you got to let stuff go because you have no control of the situation, right? You submitted your test. You can't control what's going to happen with the grade. You can't study for it anymore. You just have to let it go. So you have to kind of move on from that. Yeah, you're going to be anxious. You're going to be worried about it. You're going to be thinking about it. But the best advice we can give you is just let that go. It's out of your control at this point. Okay. Now, we have also lots of other suggestions, so feel free to contact us. Thanks for joining us for these suggestions for summer success. Reach out if you want support while you're here at Lehigh-Carbon Community College this summer, and we'll be happy to provide you assistance. My name is Michael, and enjoy the rest of your summer. How was that, hey? Pretty good series? What do you mean we forgot something? Oh, we forgot test-taking tips. How to answer specific questions, huh? Yeah, that's pretty important. We should get to that.